The Toronto Maple Leafs sweep the Habs at the Prospect Showdown over the weekend. Who stood out? What updates do we have for you? We'll get into all that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Dave, I was checking out FanDuel actually yesterday, seeing if there was any new futures that came about, and I did see a Mitch Marner future, his points total set by FanDuel, 90.5. I mean, we're going to go through the full over-under list like we do. It's an annual show that we do closer to season, a couple days before, we drop the puck for the season, but that seems like a pretty good bet to go over, I would think, no?
I would say so. The only reason I would say that Mitch Marner doesn't get to 90 points is if he doesn't play a full season, right? If he gets injured. But even so, I'm just looking at his points still now. Like a couple years ago, he played 72 games. He had 97 points.
Yeah. He had 85 points last year. He played, 69 games?
Yeah.
So if he stays healthy, that's a good bet to go over on. Just one of the many Maple Leafs-esque bets that we'll be going over right before the season gets going. But yes, FanDuel, today's show sponsor. Big time weekend for the Maple Leafs, Dave. We had the Leafs and the Canadiens prospect showdown go on in Montreal. It's now in the books. Toronto winning both games. Got game one. They won Saturday by a score of 4-3. That one went to a shootout. And then on Sunday, they won 5-4 in regulation. Dave, who stood out to you this weekend?
I mean, we went through our kind of list of players we wanted to get a good eye on, and we didn't obviously get to see Ben Danford. We'll talk about him a little bit later, but Topi Niemala, he was a player I've been kind of keeping my eye on the last few little bit, just because we're talking about young prospects trying to make this team, or even make a case to be on the roster at some point this year. He's someone I'm looking at. Cade Weber showed off some nice mitts on a goal from Roni Hirvonen. So he's another player that maybe it's a little early to say whether for sure he'll play in the NHL this year, but he's someone that's got the size, and obviously if he could put it all together, he could be an option down the road, or even if an injury call up. So those were two guys for sure. Obviously you got to see Dennis Hildeby, the Hildebeest, in that again. Haven't really seen a lot from him since the playoffs, and he didn't exactly have the best end to his season. So
yeah. I mean, goaltending is always interesting to watch in these prospect tournaments, just because there's a lot of mistakes that are made with these young kids, and often the goaltenders are under siege. You saw a couple of nice saves and some good recoveries from all three of the goalies that we saw play. Peksa, Akhtiamov, and Dennis Hildeby. But so you're only going to glean so much from watching the goalies in a tournament like this, but certainly a goalie that we are going to be keenly watching over the course of the next few months here. As of now, I guess he's slated to be the fourth goalie with Matt Murray in tow, but who knows how Matt Murray's health will be going forward, so might end up being the third goalie. And with Joseph Wall being a bit of a health question mark himself, we could see some Hill to be in the NHL at some point. But yeah, good to see him in action. Easton Cowan was obviously the guy who was going to take up most of the oxygen at this prospect tournament, especially among Maple Leaf fans. He didn't disappoint. Easton Cowan was one of the best players out there on the ice, and you could see amongst his peers, his age level, he's he is one of the best players right now when it comes to prospects, not in the NHL. And he put forward an effort, got himself a couple of goals. I think he finished with 3 points on the tournament, scored a power play goal, killed penalties. He was on the ice in the final minute, holding down a lead for Toronto. So you saw those defensive, capabilities, which we heard from Easton Cowan early in this camp when they were still doing the practices in Toronto. And he mentioned like his goal was to get bigger and stronger, so that he could be relied upon in all phases of the game, including, late game situations where you need to kill off, the final minute to hold a lead. He was able to show that he could do that in this prospect tournament. Almost scored too. Had a
Yeah.
I think it went post and then didn't go in, but almost had another goal in this game too, trying to kill off the final minute of a game. But Easton Cowan obviously was a player who was great to watch, and Roni Hirvonen too. I think was somebody who should get a little star on his name for the prospect tournament that he had. He kind of shined on day two, ended up with a couple of goals, 3 points in total for the Maple Leafs. So Roni Hirvonen, who's getting to a point in his career where it's like, all right, what are you? Like, we're 22 years old. You've now been here a couple of seasons. You've been in North America. It's time for you to make that push to the next level and start to sniff, the NHL and start to have a good AHL season.
Mhm.
So he's hoping to stay healthy. Got himself off to a good start, I guess, to the 24-25 campaign with a solid 2-goal, 3-point performance this weekend in this prospect showdown. So hopefully he can carry it into the Maple Leafs camp, which is going to start up next week. Let's take a break. Let's talk about a couple other players that kind of caught our eye and the big injuries, a couple of bumps and bruises coming out of this weekend as well. We'll get to all that more coming up on the other side. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, and we got a little something different for you guys. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV-based plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon at a market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you each and every day, Monday through Friday. We are back to a full-time schedule all the way through until next off season, even through most of the off season. We went all the way through July with daily episodes this past off season. So make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast for your daily Maple Leafs coverage to know exactly what's going on, your up-to-the-minute updates on your Toronto Maple Leafs. Coming out of the Leafs Canadiens prospect showdown, talked about a couple of players who we thought looked really good. Easton Cowan, Topi Niemala, obviously Roni Hirvonen. Nikita Grebenkin only played the first game, but he was a name that I felt I heard a lot, and lots of people really enjoyed what they saw to Grebenkin, his first kind of taste of North American action over here.
Yeah, I mean, what he played with Cowan and Minten in the game he played, and like what's apparent to me is like his size, like 6'2", I believe. So like the Leafs don't have a lot of big size forwards or even just big size prospects, right? And so it was nice to see like the kind of the blend of the size and the skill. The Leafs are starting to get a little bit more of that, but I'm curious to see how he does at camp, because again, we're talking about needing guys to step up, right, and getting those options. He's another player that's played a lot of professional hockey in the KHL, right? Obviously, he hasn't played in the NHL style, so it's going to be a bit of a transition for him coming over to North America. But even if he just starts off in the Marlies, I think he's going to be one of their top forwards.
Yeah,
going into this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to use him like that, and he's someone who scored 19 goals as a 20-year-old in the KHL. I mean, that's not easy to do, and even in his first season in the KHL, when he was just drafted. He put up some pretty solid numbers. So he's someone that a lot of Leaf fans are pretty excited about getting back overseas. Get a chance to see what he looks like on the smaller ice surface. Can he push guys around, and can he kind of use his size to his advantage and score a lot of goals? He's a trigger happy, power forward type of player. So I'm excited to see what Nikita Grebenkin can turn into. Looked pretty solid in his first outing there, and seeing him play alongside a couple of the top prospects probably goes to show what the Maple Leafs think of him too, as one of the players who have a really good shot at becoming an NHLer for this team alongside Easton Cowan and Fraser Minten. And, maybe at some point throughout their careers, they're all on a team together and they can rely on that experience playing together at that prospect tournament, just as a refresher, I guess, if they need be. Maybe they get to play with each other as Maple Leafs one day. Was there anyone else who you wanted to kind of throw an honorable mention to for someone who you thought played well?
I like to say Noah Chadwick, right? Obviously expecting him to go back to junior, but I think you can see, a player who's features more as a two-way sort of player. Obviously, the size again. He was like when they drafted him. We looked at the size, and obviously, I think there's going to be a little more growing, even though he's grown quite a bit. I think he's over 200 pounds now. I feel like there's like work to be done for him skating wise, right? And that's where I think he's going to work at. But I do think that he's a project that if the Leafs are patient with him, it could potentially work out pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great draft plus 1 year last season, became a big part of Lethbridge's blue line. I think he's got the captaincy now, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I saw they slapped the C on him out in Lethbridge. So he's going to have a big leadership role this season and take on some big minutes. So the Maple Leafs got to be happy about that, and hopefully he can continue to develop and take more steps going forward. He's growing into his body. He's a pretty big boy. He's like 6'4", 200 pounds right now. Is at 19 years old, so he'll hopefully continue to grow, and that's what the Maple Leafs are looking for on the back end. But like you said, the skating, they'll have to improve on that. You see the NHL, yes, they're going with size, but a lot of these guys who are big nowadays, they can skate too, right? You're looking for 6'4", 215. But that can also skate well. So that's kind of exactly what you're looking for in terms of developing when it comes to Noah Chadwick. Couple of guys who, well, I guess, Fraser Minten did play well up until the injury. Fraser Minten was a guy too, should probably mention, one of the Leafs' top prospects, did score a goal in the power play, a couple of helpers, end up with 3 points. But he did leave the game. I think it was game 2 he left in the second period, kind of an awkward little spill into the boards. Looked like he might have tweaked his ankle a little bit, and then was declared that he was not going to return for the rest of that second game for what was considered precautionary reasons by the coaching staff afterwards. So hopefully that means that he'll be okay and ready to go once Leafs main camp starts up later on this week. Hopefully, this is just something that over a couple of days, put some ice on it, rest it, elevate it. What's the RICE acronym, and he'll be good to go for Leaf camp, hopefully, because Fraser Minten, he made the team out of camp last year. He's probably hoping to try and push his way back onto the team this year. It's a much nicer paycheck and much nicer lifestyle to be in the NHL than the American League. So I'd hope that he's looking to have a big camp too, and he started things off on the right way with a solid prospect tournament.
Yeah, and I was happy to see that. I again, when you look at the opportunities here going into the season, he's a player that can definitely grab hold of something if he takes what he did last year. But there was the one play where he stripped the player. I think everyone saw the clip on X as well. Strips the Habs player of the puck. Good relentless back, and then right up the tape to the guy to the forward. Right, like that's going to be his bread and butter. He's not going to be the most skilled guy, but the work ethic is going to have to be there for him. And I don't question that at all. And just making the smart plays. That's what's going to make him, I think, a good player for the Leafs. If that's the style he's going to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about probably like a third line center, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
we're hoping Fraser Minten turns into, a defensively reliable third line center. He's got to work himself into that, but I wouldn't be looking at him and saying, "Oh, this guy's going to be, number one center material for years, going to put up 30, 40 goals." That's not going to be what Fraser Minten does, but he's smart and he can make the subtle little plays that win you hockey games at the end of the year. And Craig Berube is going to enjoy, a guy like that. So hopefully he can continue to do a lot of that come Leafs camp when things open up later on this week. One other injury that took place over the course of the tournament was Ben Danford, the Leafs first round pick from this past year. He was taken out, took a hit to the head in practice on Thursday, and then didn't end up playing at all over the weekend. He didn't practice, didn't play. Was there an update at all onto Danford, I guess, leading into Leafs camp? Is he going to be good to go for camp, or is he not okay? I didn't quite see the update there, but not a good way to start for the Leafs first round pick. To be beginning the year with an injury, didn't get to play in his first prospect camp, and now he'll be starting, behind the eight ball, even if he is good to go for Leafs main camp.
Yeah, I didn't see anything like concrete. He didn't have
Yeah.
anything like really anything.
Day to day. I saw he's like day to day was kind of the
I'm
latest I
hoping
saw.
I'm assuming he'll be ready for camp. I think they're just gonna be cautious. I
Yeah.
know the Leafs had their golf tournament, so
Mhm.
didn't hear anything there, but I'm assuming they're not gonna be worrying about injury updates at that point yet.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll answer those questions when things open up later on in the week. Speaking of the Maple Leafs golf tournament, couple of news and sound bites have come out of the tournament. So why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back. We'll break some of them down. And we had a massive signing around the NHL too. We can touch on. So we get to that more on the other side. It's Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you each and every day, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, and also up on YouTube. You mentioned it just a moment ago, Dave, talking about how the Maple Leafs had their annual charity golf tournament today, which kind of kicks off the Leafs season in a way. You got your charity golf tournament, then a few days later they start training camp. So it was nice to see everybody, all the new faces out there too. Chance for the media to talk to some of these guys, and Jani Hakanpaa was there as well. I don't think we've done a pod since the Hakanpaa signing was made official. Actually, I think that was made official last Thursday or Friday or something. 1 year
Yeah.
deal, $1.47 million. And the question we had all summer long was, is this guy going to sign? What's going on with Jani Hakanpaa? Is he a Maple Leaf or is he not a Maple Leaf? He is. He got a guaranteed deal, one year, 1.47. So not quite the 2-year deal at 1.5 annually. But regardless, they got something done. And Hakanpaa is a Maple Leaf and spoke today and is just hoping to stay healthy. He's hoping to stay healthy and help this team win some games. That was kind of the gist of what I got from Jani Hakanpaa today.
Yeah, it seems like he's not 100%. Like obviously, we've been told that the knee is going to be a thing that he's going to have to deal with.
Gonna have to monitor it.
Yeah, but it made it seem like he's still got a little bit of work to do before he could be like a full participant at camp. That's based on what I was seeing. He's like putting the finishing touches and getting back out there. I think he did skate. I mean, the Leafs made him do some they had their training staff go and look at what the rehab work he's been doing. So yeah, because I think it said Hakanpaa said he'll speak to the conditioning staff on Tuesday to see if he can join on this. So I think that's a good sign that at least let's say he's not totally ready. It doesn't sound like he's too far off.
Well, if he's out there playing golf,
yeah, it's not. Yeah, as someone who golfs, that's a good point. Although I don't typically use all my knees when I'm golfing, but there's
Wow.
there is some. It is not. Yeah, if you got leg issues,
knee torquage, you're trying to swing out of your shoes. There's definitely some knee torquage.
Apparently, Austin Matthews hit a bomb of a drive, and that's
doesn't
the camera
surprise
spotted.
me. That does not surprise me one bit. That Austin Matthews can hit bombs off the tee, not even for a second.
I already know we're getting golf jokes in the comments very soon.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be coming. They're definitely gonna be coming. So Chris Tanev spoke, and he's excited to get this season going. And COEL actually is picking number 95.
Yeah, I mean Tavares has got 91, so 91's not available. That's usually his number.
Didn't he have a different number when he was in
Florida? He had 91.
Florida at 91. What would he have?
I think he was 23, wasn't he?
In Arizona, yeah.
And
so I guess Nyes is 23. So I suppose he had to pick a new number, so went with 95. He spoke on it. I didn't get a chance to watch that before we got to go, but he did speak on the number change. And
so the reason behind it is because his brother is born in 1995.
Okay. So that is my brother's born in 1995. So we're gonna go with that. Okay, cool.
Apparently his brother's also playing in the AHL.
Is there another? There's another. Is it Ole Ekman Larson? Like
Kevin Ekman Larson.
Okay.
He played 2 seasons in Tucson, and I think he's back home in Sweden now. Playing.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, shout out Evan Ekman Larson. And Kevin, I think that's all we need to say. Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin.
Okay. Shout out Kevin. Kevin. That's not a Swedish name. Kevin? Anyway, we don't need to go down that road.
No.
Definitely don't need to go down that road. The other big piece of news around the NHL today, though, that I do want to get your thoughts on. Sidney Crosby inks his extension with the Pittsburgh Penguins, 2 years, $8.7 million AAV. And that seemed to have set Leafs Twitter ablaze today because Kyle Dubas was finally able to sign a franchise icon, and it didn't cost the team an arm and a leg.
Yeah, he didn't do the double digits, huh? Apparently, you can keep it to a single digit $1 million cap.
What does that tell you? Is it Kyle or is it the other side that's the big issue?
I mean, I think Crosby, the last deal was averaging at 8.7. So he's just keeping it. He just loves $8.7 million. He's like, just pay me that for the rest of my life every year.
And he was incredibly underpaid at that point. Incredibly underpaid his entire career.
12-year deal that he signed, or he signed like
15-year deal. It was a long deal and incredibly underpaid. Like it's not even criminally. He was the best player in the league for almost 10 years until McDavid came around. So
I'm pretty sure Malkin made more than him, if I'm not mistaken. Like per year.
Even Malkin's like latest contract, didn't he get like 9.5? Malkin and Letang?
No, I think he's in the 7s, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe, but like, Crosby, man, he knows how to keep the window open. He understands that if I don't take the money, we might be able to bring other guys in. So Crosby understands that. So he's signing 8.7, and he's hoping that they can bring in some other guys over the next 2 years. That his contract is extended. Again, he's under contract this year, so that's 2 more years past this. Yeah. I would imagine that takes him to the end of his career. Like he probably said, I got 2 more years after this, and then I'm probably going to be good to go.
Yeah, I think like there was kind of talk about that. It's like, is this kind of putting him to the end? And I don't think it technically says that. I mean, look, it at least gives us the thought that the Olympics are still an option for him potentially, right? We were like concerned that maybe he was going to hang it up before the chance. I want to see Crosby and McDavid on the same team for Team Canada.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we're seeing here. He's like 2 more years, he'll take me to the end, 2026, and I'll be good to go in the playoffs, good to go or for the Olympics, and hopefully we can keep a window open and be a competitive team in the next 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. And I think for Crosby too, does 2 things. One, it tells you, he doesn't want maybe be the guy that's like sticking around too long when his team's going through a rebuild. And 2, a short deal kind of gives them the thought, okay, what happens in 2 years? Do I need to think about, am I going to continue playing or is this going to be the end? Right. He's not, but also a little surprised that maybe, I guess, well, some players have signed these long-term deals and maybe not necessarily playing all the years of the deal.
Yeah.
Crosby's not that person.
No, he's not that guy. I mean, he's made so much money in endorsements, like through, was he with, he's with Reebok and, the 87 line, and he's made a lot of money throughout his career. He's not about the money at this point. And I don't believe he lives a lavish lifestyle. So he's like, all right, it's number match it again, 8.7, couple more years, keep it coming, and we'll keep it moving. Good for Sid, good for Kyle getting that thing done. It doesn't sound like it was too much of an arm twister to get that signed on both sides. And it ends up exactly how I think we all expected it to. Crosby signing an extension and pretty much putting him in Pittsburgh for the rest of his career, for his entire career, which I'm a fan of. Big time fan of that being the case. All right, buddy. Anything else you want to bring to the table, chat about?
No, I think we're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about because we're getting back to the full swing of things.
We are. We'll be back for another podcast tomorrow, Wednesday as well, but also tomorrow. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on X at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs Season 2. No, this is what? Season 2. It's like Season 6, I think, of the podcast is upon us. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.